Good evening, everyone. How you doing tonight? Welcome to the North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. My name is Tom, and I'm the host of this show. So tonight we have a author and cryptid researcher, field investigator as well, Carter Buschardt. I'm glad to bring him in. So without further ado, here he is. Okay.
Here he is.
Here he is.
Great
How's it
intro.
going?
How's it going, Tom? Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. It's been kind of like maybe a month and a half back and forth, and we finally got a date. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like a blind date.
Yeah.
That's how I met my wife, was a online thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you know if you meet a woman in a bar, or if a woman meets a guy in a bar, oh, you met him in a bar. Oh, I mean, what about church? So anyway, it's kind of funny that this is how we initially met, and then we ended up getting married 9 months later. It's crazy.
And nothing wrong with that. I met mine. It wasn't a blind date. Well, it was kind of like a blind date, but it was like a blind double date. And I wound up meeting her. Was my friend's date, and I wound up, you know, hooking up with her back in the late '90s. And my friend kind of got, dissed aside. And sadly, we rekindled about 6 years, 7 years later, and got married, had kids, and moved to North Carolina from New Jersey. So yeah,
Yeah, well, that's
cool
cool.
stuff.
Yeah, everybody's got their stories, pretty cool. But yeah, but she's very very supportive of my passion.
Yeah.
And it started out where I felt like she was kind of being just placating me. Oh, that's nice, honey. You got your little hobby, and yeah, you see all this stuff here. It's look like a hobby. You see these things
Yeah.
on the wall back here. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
so
Well, the stuff on my wall was from her because at first she wasn't really into it, and I took her out a couple times, and she actually saw a Bigfoot at a park near my house on a Greenway trail that goes to a park, and she seen one, and I didn't see it. So I think she has an intuitive ability that I don't have. So now when I go out, I try to bring her with me, and she actually saw one in my backyard with my night vision camera,
awesome.
and then the night vision camera got zapped because the next day it wouldn't turn on. It just had a white screen and it wouldn't do anything else but have a white screen. So, but yeah. So let's get into you. If no one really, if not many people, well, I'm sure a lot of people have heard it, but not in my chat tonight. If you wanted to do like a brief bio and kind of get into like what got you started in this.
Oh, sure. Uh, I've been researching, Sasquatch for probably 15 years, 14, 15 years. I first was introduced, like many of us, with In Search of Leonard Nimoy. That's when I first saw that Patterson film. I was about 10, and that was it for me. By that time, for reasons we might discuss at another time, is that by the time I was 10 or 12, I knew something wasn't right with the world. I knew something was out there. That I knew there was something going on that we weren't being, we weren't privy to the information. I had and I had an event, but fast forward to 12 years later, and I'm in Washington playing, not playing, but my wife and I are on vacation, and we rented a cabin on the east side of the Cascades, and we were just walking through the woods, and I find a box, an ammo box, strapped to a tree, and it turned out it was a geocache. You know what that is? It's a geographic game where someone sends you coordinates, and you follow the coordinates, and when you get to that exact spot, there's a box or something there where you can open, sign your name, says you found it, you take something out and you put something in and lock the box back up and go about your way. Well, inside this box was a investigator from BFRO. He left his card from Washington State. I said,
Oh wow,
okay.
nice.
So I left $1. I took his card. When I got back to Kansas City, I called him up, said, hey, how do I get to be a BFRO investigator? He said, we have to go on an expedition and, be approved and show some aptitude for that. And so I went on an expedition. I ended up taking over the expeditions for the guy they had running them here because he's just kind of a horse's behind, very close-minded. So I ran expeditions for BFRO here in Missouri for 3 or 4 years. I ran one. The last one I ran was 2019 in Illinois, and that's how I got here. Then I started doing reports. I've had almost 100 reports published to BFRO. But while I were taking these reports, people were saying, "Now I'm going to tell you something you won't believe." So after they've already told me their encounter with the Sasquatch, I saw it crossing the road, I saw it watching me fish, whatever. Then they start telling me the paranormal and quantum things, and you can't argue. They don't want anything, they don't want any attention, nothing. They're telling me things that you just can't believe unless you have an open mind. You just will discard it. And they started coming out of the woodwork. And then COVID hit, and when I hit about my 100th report, I said, well, maybe I should write a book. I got all these reports. So I wrote my first book during COVID, 2020. And then when that one came out, I started hearing from other people. And doing shows like yours, people would call or email me, hey, I got to tell you, I've been sitting on this for 20 years, 10 years, whatever. I can't tell anybody. And so that's where all these books come from, is that the people are telling me things, and they've been ridiculed and mocked and just destroyed by their, you know how it is with spouses, lovers, co-workers, best friends.
So you're kind of really giving these people a voice without really putting their names out there because they don't want to be in the spotlight. So you're kind of giving them a voice through your books.
Yeah, they don't want anything except to get it out and have somebody to listen to them without making fun of them. And together we talked about it. I said, well, okay, now here's what you might have seen if it wasn't what you saw, and you run through all the possibilities, and it's like you're left with something. This is a good story. I cannot explain this away, and you can't either. And don't put it on the back burner like it never happened, because it did happen. And people like you want to talk to people like you. So I've got two habituation properties. I have 4, but 2 that I visit kind of regularly. They're now talking to each other. You can call up and say, well, Betty, have you seen your Sasquatch today? Well, we saw him about 3 days ago. And what about your? Well, we saw the baby. So these people that live in rural areas are discussing amongst themselves when they couldn't before. They have someone to talk to that is having the same experience, like Sasquatch living on their property. So it's turned into this really neat thing, but I have to keep going because people are coming out of the woodwork, and it's really happening. This stuff, the people, the apers, and I believe, yes, they are flesh and blood, but I believe they can operate in 2 different environments. Whether it's our dimension, another dimension, portals. But I've seen things, and my wife saw something with me. She can't explain. I can't explain. So it's like this stuff's happening. I don't care what you say. This stuff is really happening, and the only reason it's not more all over the place is because we're taught how to think. When we're born, we come out of the birth canal till the time you're 20 or 22. You're educated and indoctrinated into how the world is. This is real. This is real. This is not real. This cannot happen. This could happen someday. And they tell you. So when you see things, whether it's UFOs, Sasquatch, Mothman, Dogman, any cryptids, anything that defies common logic, you're finding a way to explain it away because, well, they told me in school that can't be. So, it must not be right. Oh, wait. Yeah. So they've been lying to us for all these, years about things, and so they've been lying about UFOs. They finally admitted everything when the Tic Tac videos come out. So it's going to be the same with Sasquatch. They're going to lie to you till they just can't.
Well, they put it out slowly in like movies and stuff, and some kind of documentaries here and there from the Finding Bigfoot Monster Quest. Obviously they were a little bit of a disclosure to kind of put it out to the public that these things could possibly be real. And then when they do get, in my opinion, when they do kind of put the whole full-fledged out, people aren't as surprised because, oh yeah, I remember it was on Finding Bigfoot and Monster Quest and Unsolved Mysteries and all that.
You just got to have an open mind to consider some of these things. You don't have to believe them. I'll keep a secret. I'll never tell anybody that you considered some of the things in my book or other people's books. It'll be our little secret. You don't have to believe it. Just consider it.
Mhm.
It's the Brussels sprouts theory. You put them on your plate, you pretend like you're going to eat them at company's house, you spread them around, make it look like it, but you're not really going to eat it because you don't like them. It's the same thing with the paranormal and quantum stuff. Ron Moorhead did commentary in my first book. So he's not a slouch. People believe him, but not a little pipsqueak like me, But I'm actually out in the field running after these things and checking up and following up. So this stuff is really going on, and we are just taught that it's not real. So there's a division in the Sasquatch community right there. It's the apers and the paranormal or quantum side.
Yeah, he makes a good point there. New Mexico underground base, level called the zoo, where they do genetic experimentation. That sounds like what is that?
Dulce,
Where's
Dulce,
Phil Schneider? Dulce, New Mexico. Yeah,
Dulce, yeah. That's well known. I mean, there's been some firefights out there, according to a couple of
and
people.
he was suicided by the powers that be because he was doing too many seminars and he was talking about things that they didn't want him putting out to the public, and he kept doing it, and he told people, he said I don't ever plan on, I love my life and I'll never kill myself, so if I ever wind up dead, you'll know why. And a year later he's dead in a hotel room by a catheter tube around his neck, and I think he's like paraplegic partial. I think he had no leg or something. So
yeah. Didn't he like trip and that wrapped around his neck 15 times and strangled him or something?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Makes sense, right?
Yeah, that could happen to any of us. I trash the government at every chance because you can't tell me they don't know. And since they've been lying about the UFOs, they obviously, the one question, if they're just a dumb ape, why are they lying about? Why don't they just tell us? We get stories every week, every month. We just discovered a new plant species, a new mammal, a new fish, a new, bug, new insect, all this. But with the apes, no, they're just dumb apes. No, don't worry about it. They're just dumb apes.
Yeah, that's pretty much, well, that's the big agenda with some of these high profile scientists slash doctors footprints and stuff, where they kind of keep it under a certain agenda so they don't lose their government funding.
Yep.
Their cash cow. If they say something else, they're not getting funded no more by these high profile government aided school systems that pay them very well. So why would you want to change your mind on what you're basing your opinion on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the colleges and the government fund 90% of what science does. So they pretty much dictate what you're going to come up with. You want your checks to keep coming in. You don't say anything about what we say not to say anything about. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, paranormal, quantum, disappearing, reappearing, human hybrid of some type. I mean, it's easy. Money buys silence. Knowledge is power, and power corrupts. And money buys silence, and so that's what they've done. So they're going to get all the data, pay the big money, but we're not going to get anything until it's way, 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 way too late.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's right about that. And sorry about my internet. I don't know if it's my internet. Every time I start talking about certain subjects or I start digging deep down the rabbit hole, my StreamYard will start buffering. It happens to me. Happens to Nighthawk, my brother William Nighthawk, and Dennis Carroll do a podcast 3 times a week, and theirs always gets jambled with. I think the Cryptid Huntress Jess Jones, hers got jambled with on StreamYard. It's just a bad. They need to do a better platform for doing interviews and podcasts, because StreamYard it lacks with signal based.
Yeah, well, it's normally the best one. I find that it's less problematic than some of the others, but yeah, well, it'll keep. We'll eventually get some great technology, but you know, I get visions from a clan that I believe I made contact. Well, I know I made contact with them in 2019 when I led the expedition in Illinois. At the same time that these rocks were being put on this log, my wife was seeing a blue orb in our bedroom, and I was 300 miles away. So this log here, there's 6 rocks on that log.
Okay.
5 of the rocks, one stands for me. It's a pointed rock. I'm the leader. There's 4 rocks behind me. Those are the 4 expedition goers. There was only 4 people due to COVID for the expedition I led in Illinois in 2019. The 6th rock was my partner who lives in Illinois. He's had a lot of trouble. He's had strokes, he's cancer. So he couldn't go down to this ravine where we made contact. So he stayed back in the car. But this rock, these 5 rocks are me and the 4 expedition goers. There's 1 rock down here, which represents Harold. So he was there, but not there because he stayed in the car one night while I took the group out. He stayed back at camp the second night while I took the group out because he was still not able to go. So anyway, we went back in 2020 during COVID, and I met Harold. So let's just go back because I left some gifting things there. So I left. Let's just go back and see if everything's different. I went back. And I left a gifting thing. I left a camera. I said, I'm going to go back in the morning. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go back to the campsite. I'm going to go back and pick up my camera at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm heading back to Kansas City. This is in Illinois. So I get back to this log and I left some gifting stuff over here. And my camera was over here. Those rocks were there. They weren't there the night before. They turned up between and I was there in October of 2019. So it gets dark. I left around 1:30 or 2 o'clock. We left that afternoon and went back to the campsite. I left my camera and put some gifting things there. So between 2:30 and 3 o'clock somewhere and 5 o'clock, somebody would have had to come out there and put those rocks there. I mean, there was just nobody there, and who logically you have to think, okay, now who is going to walk out during COVID in this area, which is feared by many people in Jonesboro, Illinois. This place, I was told, this is a place you don't want to go at night. So I said, well, thank you. That's exactly where I'm going. Because if that spooks you people out that bad, that's where we're going.
Roads less traveled.
Yeah. So I get back and there's those 5 rocks. And then the one at the other end, that's 6. I called Harold at the camp. I said, Harold, I told him. He was going, oh my God, I can't believe it. So I called my wife. It was about, like I said, 8:30 in the morning. I called her to tell her what was going on. She goes, what time did that happen? I said, well, I'm not sure, but it would have had to have been somewhere between 5:30, 6 o'clock when it got dark. And because we were, there. And then midnight, 1 o'clock. Well, so I saw a blue orb running through our bedroom. It was flying through our bedroom. I also saw the reflection of it in our dresser mirror. So not only did she see it in its real form, but it was also reflecting as it was flying around the bedroom. Then it flew into our bathroom and disappeared. Right about the same time, I believe they were leaving those rocks for me and my group. It's just too much of it, and I don't believe in coincidences. That was 6 rocks. That was 6 people there, and they were segregated into a group of 5 and one by itself.
That's funny. Funny you say that. That's crazy because I've actually put rocks out on dumped over logs in the property behind my house, the woods, and sometimes I'll put like an apple there or a banana or something. Or further down, I'll put something else. Like I recently put out peanut butter jars. Came back, both peanut butter jars were gone, and all that was left was a lid. And you need this to turn the lid off of a peanut butter jar. A raccoon cannot do that. There's no other animal that can do that. Something that has 5 digits like us. And the rock switches. I've had rocks the rocks were taken off. I've stacked white ones. I've stacked different color. I've actually even taken seashells from the beach and
Mhm.
stacked them up, and they'd be flipped upside down the other way next time I check them. So I
You're
know it's
messing with me. You're communicating with a human hybrid being
mm-hmm.
of unknown age and origin. Just put that in your pipe and smoke it for a minute. You're communicating with a primordial being.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awesome when that happens, you know. And by the way, raccoons can open a peanut butter jar by
Really?
putting it on rocks. There's video. I looked that up. That's the first thing I looked up because I have habituation.
Okay. Well, these jars were actually, like I said, they were gone from the area, and all that was left was a lid, and there was no
Yeah.
rocks. It's just big trees. So
Well, it's highly likely. I
yeah.
glued mine on so that it wouldn't be accidentally open. So it would have to, you know, I don't think a raccoon, even if it's super glued on, can keep banging it against a tree stump. But there's, if you Google and look up raccoons opening jars, they can do it. It's very rare. You got to be really smart to do it. But I get what you mean. But, you know, the jar's gone and the lid is there, you know. Well, who did that? You need opposable thumbs. You don't have many choices. You got human, Sasquatch, maybe a raccoon, you know, and that's the only choices. You don't, and so flip a coin, you know, take the raccoon out of the equation because, you know, there's certain ways to lock them in where they can't do that. So, but yeah, but it's crazy. The rock stacking, the seashells, it's just, you know, some of the habituation people I got, the one that's in the book that I sent you. Oh my
Mhm.
God, this lady's got. They're turning mirrors upside down so the mirror is not facing out.
Oh
She goes,
wow.
puts the mirror so it's facing out, and they come back and they turn it around. Then they wrap a vine around the tree, like strapping it to the tree so it won't show
Hmm.
the mirror, you know. And then it's funny. It's just this little cat and mouse game. And so, you know, I told her, you know, that the Native Americans, when they first were being tortured and tormented by the white men back in the 1800s, they had their pictures taken, and they hated the cameras because they thought when those cameras show they would take their picture then show them develop film.
Mhm.
They thought that it stole your soul.
Stole your spirit. Yep, that's what they thought. They
Yeah,
take your
and
spirit.
so if the Sasquatch and Native Americans had a symbiotic relationship, which I'm quite certain they did, as you probably and a lot of people, you know, back when they were trading blankets and maybe crops and food and seeds and stuff like that before the white man came along, they may have been introduced to that camera, the little box with the eyeball on it, you know, and they steal your soul, so they may know that. So, but for whatever it is, the Sasquatch, and I told her, put the mirrors out because I'm thinking as a human, I'm thinking if I haven't seen my face ever, except in a babbling brook or in a puddle of water, I'd like to kind of know what I look like. So I thought maybe, showing the mirrors, they would be curious. But her Sasquatch don't like the mirrors. They
Really?
turn them and they take vines and they run it through the handle. You go to Dollar Tree and buy those like little cheap dollar mirrors and you hold it's got a hand
Yeah.
and you hang them on the tree. But they take them and turn them around and they take them and pull them off the tree and put them on the ground with rocks on them. We don't want to see the mirror, and then she
That's
goes and
pretty.
puts it back
That's
up.
pretty intense.
Yeah, it's it's a give and take, but she's communicating, and they're telling her without being able to verbalize it, we don't want to see the mirror. We don't like the reflection. We don't like that we can see ourselves. They're not concerned with their looks anyway, you know.
No, they don't care how they
They're
look.
on a whole other level. And
Yeah.
so it's funny that she has this going on. And it's in the book you got, the habituation.
Yeah, the book, the other, although I didn't get to the first book, but the second book, I mean, this thing is, I mean, this is the topic of debate right here. I mean, I wouldn't even say debate. How can you debate that? That's like the
Well, the
same
haters and
location,
trolls, the haters and trolls do debate it. You know,
4 seconds apart, and you got a guy, same spot, and then you got this big old hand with these, beat up looking fingernails that look like not human whatsoever. That's not a human hand. I could tell you. So many people try to jump on, oh, that's a disformed figure hand. That's not a human hand. That's like a blackened. That's almost like a leathery baseball mitt hand. Like people say.
And trust me, even after I talked to him and had him swear, and he is a man of God. He's a man of the cloth. He's a preacher.
Yep.
So of course, all the haters when I put that out. Well, it's only 4 seconds. I mean, how could he have not seen it? Or he could have run over there and grabbed a glove and put it on and got the picture taken in 4 seconds. I mean, I timed it. I tried it. You really, you went out and did that just to try to throw some shade on me? Really? I'm just, 4 seconds. And on the top photo with the preacher. On my right, that dark kind of mass in the background, that is a blind. So that's not a Sasquatch. Somebody thought, well, maybe it's a Sasquatch back there and it ran up behind him. Well, no, that's a blind. I've been to the property twice. So it's a blind back there.
Hunting blind, right?
Yeah, it's a hunting blind.
Okay.
It's only off, and they build them that way. I mean, he built one, him and Jimmy built one while I was there, while we were filming. They built one and it was about 4 or 5 foot off the ground. It's just off the ground enough just to keep moisture out. And, and that's how they have that one set up. So somebody said, well, that's a Sasquatch in the background. I said, no, it's a blind. And I appreciate you looking at that, because if it was a Sasquatch, that would give, if that was a Sasquatch, it would take him about 2 or 3 seconds to get back there behind him. That opening there is around 25, 30 yards. It's a big natural open. Anyway, but he was just out checking all his batteries and cameras and SD cards, and now they have, most of their cameras are in 3s, so they got a camera here taking a picture of a camera here, taking a picture of a camera over here. So if anything gets in the way, and they've got about 30 cameras out there. So about every 2 or 3 weeks they go out and check them, check the batteries, SD cards. And so that's what they do. And that one there is just kind of by itself. But I mean, he didn't see it, feel it, hear it.
He didn't see it. No,
it was there. And I adhere to the potential, answers that it appeared. Either it manifested itself, it materialized after, I mean, it just popped in, and I think it bumped the camera, because if you look at the photo, the photo of the hand, the trees look like they're moving. Mm-hmm. And the shadow is just a little different. The camera angle is just a little bit, because that horizontal tree that's laying on the ground behind the preacher when he's walking up is a little out of view, but it's still there. It's just the camera was turned a little, shadow on the ground.
Almost like it's cocked just a little bit of cocked. Yeah.
I think if this thing materialized, he didn't have his GPS working or something, and he just bumped the camera. If you're just going to show up somewhere, well, you better hope you're not materializing on top of the Grand Canyon. Oops, that's a big step. But you gotta hope that you're doing it right. And so I think something bumped the camera. If it was there and did not materialize, it bumped the camera anyway, because you can see the photos different. It's the same day, it's the same year, and everyone's trying to, just vilify me. And I've vetted these guys as best as I can. And I can't find anything other than people that just don't want to believe it. And they're going to poke holes in your story, but these guys are right as rain. And like I said, when we were, somebody had called me and they were going to do one of my reports in this state, but my witnesses for this other report decided they wanted to be kind of prima donnas and make demands. Well, we want this. It's like, really? I mean, what do you want? A limo and, food cater?
I want a red carpet rolled out to the damn Golden Corral, baby.
It was close to that. It was just stupid. So I said, I called him back up. I said, I tell you what, I have a better report that's no one's seen, and the photo will blow your mind. So if I'm going to send you this photo, send it to the production people up in New York, see what they think. and within an hour, hour and a half, we're coming here. We're coming here to do, and we filmed this, pilot for a paranormal Sasquatch show that never got off the ground. That's what we were there for. But like I told you before we came on the air, they took my photo because they're not going to make a fool of themselves. They took the photo, they ran it through their machinery and make sure that it wasn't tampered, and they couldn't find anything. So they're not going to go fly a crew from New York to central United States at a great cost and rooms and crew and all of that just on a fake photo. So they showed up and they said, hey, that's golden, we're going. So that was it. So, what do you do with stuff like this? This falls into, Tom, if your evidence is too good, it's fake. If it's really blurry and it's got a red circle, well, I told you they don't exist. You're never going to win.
No.
Because there's too many haters and trolls in what we do, because everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be the one. I just want these people that are having these stories and events to come through. And
Sasquatch, Evidence of an Enigma Part 3. Where can they find this book if they wanted to purchase it?
Well, I'm working on a website which should be finished any minute, but I've got 3 books: Sasquatch, Evidence of an Enigma 1, Sasquatch, Evidence of an Enigma 2, and 3. You can go right now. You can go just email me at sqexplorer@gmail.com and tell me what you want. My website ought to be finished in about a week, and it's sqexplorer.com. The other is sqexplorer@gmail.com. That's my email. She found it. Good. But, the books, this one's 25 plus 5 for shipping. This one's, I think, 23. And
if you told people what you were paying to get these books done, they'd know that you're not really out here to make money off of books.
Making a dime on these, it's ridiculous. They're full color, glossy paper. I autograph them and I'll personalize them to whoever, but they're good, solid books with good, hard, glossy paper and color photos. They're not like, little cheesy black and white.
She found that.
There's nothing wrong with little black and white paper books, but it's just beautiful, vibrant forest. Looks like crap in black and white on pulp paper.
Color's better. I mean, it's just you could nickel and dime all day with black and white, but color is so much better. It's worth it. You could see the details so much better. Like I said, like the cover picture on your book, on the one I have. If that wasn't color, you wouldn't be able to see all the detail with the leaves and the elevation and the grounds.
Yeah.
So
that's why. And really, by the time I, send these out to promo, sell them cheap, buy 3, get them for a deal. I just want the word out, and I want more people coming to me with more stories, because your stories get into the book, and your stories in my book, reaching whatever audience they reach, might convince somebody else who's had an event to come forward and tell their story. And that's where I got 3 books worth of stories, is people coming forward. Please don't tell anybody who I am, where I live. I got to tell you this. I got to get it off my chest. It's, some of these people are balling. Some of these people have been sitting on this stuff for 15, 20 years, 30 years. They're too
they don't know what to do about, I mean, you got one family, they had a 10-foot fence pole dug out. Well, not even, it was ripped out of the ground, thrown across, and it was part of a chicken wire, that they redid. And I know how heavy those fence posts are, because I've did fence for my yard, just a standard, the 4 by 6 foot, or the 4-inch square by 6 foot tall, or I think they're 8 foot tall, and you put them 2 foot down. And just those alone, those square ones are pretty freaking heavy. So imagine a 10-foot,
Yeah, if you
over
50 to 200 pounds on this one with a wire on it.
Yeah.
Threw it over the bank down into this creek bed. And because they didn't like the fact they were putting them up in sectioning off their vegetables
Yeah,
because
they're pretty much saying you can't come and eat my garden no more. Is what they're doing.
yeah,
And it
they
pissed them
stole
off.
all the apples off their trees.
And
And
here's
so
another
to make
thing.
up for it, they popped the head off a rabbit, washed it, and in the morning they came out after all this had happened. There was a headless rabbit, washed and cleaned in this little fountain that they have. It has little bubbly water, and so it is just fascinating. They said, "Well, we're sorry. We took your food," and they were screaming and yelling at him like, "You leave our apples alone.
Mm,
We'll give you some, but
mm.
don't just take them. We eat this. This is our food." Next morning, there's a rabbit. Pop the head off, all clean, gutted. Okay, we're sorry, human. We're sorry. We know we'll be good.
There's a question for you from Steve Riley. Can you see it on the screen?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Did I smell anything? No, I've smelled a sweet, very sweet, pungent smell that almost smells like death, but I've never smelled that nasty, garbagey urine feces smell that people say.
I've only smelled that rotten meat that's been in. You can almost tell it's been in a package for like weeks. That rotten hamburger meat smell. I've smelled that before, but this is another interesting thing I noticed in your book because I've done this before. I've hung like these Mardi Gras bracelets on trees.
Yeah.
I've come back like a week later and they were gone, and no one goes in these woods. Nope, I've never seen people in these woods. And then I've gotten sunglasses returned to me on a stump before, gifted back. I've actually been gifted a deer. It's a really long story, but I came back and had a deer with his neck snapped backwards at my gifting tree. And I dragged it about 30 yards away because it was rotten meat and I couldn't do nothing with it. And I come back the next day or two, and that deer was there was no tuffets of hair, no like chew mark from splatter from coyotes going at it. Nothing. There's no evidence of it being eaten on the spot. The only thing I saw was there was nothing there, like something thrown on its shoulder and walked away with it. Like, you don't want it, we'll take it back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's the girl in there. Have you heard? There's that chapter when she was 5 or 6. She was kicking a red ball around in her yard, and they lived very, very rurally out in the middle of nowhere. And she ran over to the barbed wire fence to get her ball, and a massive Sasquatch was standing there, and it looked down over the barbed wire fence and was just looking down at her. And she was looking up the picture, and there's great. Ravenhawk did that, and Sibylla Irwin did another picture, same event. But that's her introduction to the Sasquatch when she was 5 or 6. Fast forward 10 years later, she's 16. She's sneaking out of her house, and she's stealing booze and cigarettes to go meet some of her other friends. This was a long time ago. No internet, no cell phones, and she's waiting for her friends.
Yeah,
they make a deal. Okay, we're going to go.
There's the picture you were talking about.
Yeah,
the little girl.
Yeah,
that's pretty big.
That's pretty big.
That's a pretty big boy.
Yeah, and she was waiting for her friend. She's in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the night, smoking cigarettes, and just waiting for 2 or 3 of her friends to show up. All of a sudden, right across the road is this big hill. There's a great big mound of trees on it, and she hears of this ruckus and noise and stomping and branches breaking and snorting and crazy stuff going on. And she sees these deer running out of one tunnel and then going back up another tunnel on the same hill. 2 seconds later, there's 5 Sasquatch come running out, and they branch off and go back up these 2 side tunnels that these deer ran back up. They hear all this screaming, yelling, snorting, and all this crazy yelling. It's silent. She watches the 5 Sasquatch come back down. Each one of them has a deer over their shoulders, and they walk off into the woods about 20 yards away and walk into the...
Oh, wow.
Her friends never showed up.
They were rounding those deer up. They were pretty much doing a hunter-gatherer,
Yeah, they had a choke point. Just like any hunter that hunts. They know what a choke point is. You drive them into an area where they just have less and less room to navigate, in thorns and briar patches and stuff like that. And you put them in a choke point. That's age old hunting techniques. They did the same thing. She's watching all this. She's 16. There's all kinds of things just going on under people's noses. And these people are sharing this. Now, that's not as exciting as one that's walking into a tree, or one puts his hand through a wall of a log cabin and touches a guy on the forehead, which is in my book, kills him, and knocks him out, and he's dead. He's looking down on his body. He's having an out-of-body experience. He's looking at his body crumpled on the floor, and he's up above it, and something's telling him, go back, go back, go back. You're okay. Go back. And it was the female Sasquatch, not the other one. And he went back into his body. And now no one's going to believe this, because this doesn't happen. Well, yes, it does, folks. This was up in Canada, but I mean, this stuff is going on. And like I said, we've been taught how to think and what to believe from the first time you exit the birth canal to the time you're 2022. You're taught how to think.
Indoctrination.
Yeah, you're indoctrinated and you're educated. Not in that order.
So there's two more things I want to touch up on before we get this thing done, because I know we only have an hour. So this is really cool. That's the greenhouse face picture of the Sasquatch. I mean, you can see that face very clear, right?
Yeah. That is another habituation family that has got 4 generations of them. I've been dealing with them for about 15 years through one of the great uncles. He had 2 Class A's.
And what state is this in?
I can't tell you.
Okay. Midwest?
Midwest.
Okay.
But that photo that you just held up, that is a juvenile Sasquatch the juvenile Sasquatch. He caught inside of his greenhouse one night eating strawberries and radishes. The
Wow.
Juvenile Sasquatch. Now, on his way out there, he heard screaming in the woods. The parents were warning him that he was on the way. The Sasquatch that was in the greenhouse realized he was trapped. He started screaming. My guy walks into and this is the greenhouse. That's the door. He walks in that door. The Sasquatch runs by him and brushes up against him. He's like touching him. This kid's like 21, 22. I mean, he didn't know what to do. If he didn't crap his pants, I crapped when he told me the story, because it was like, this Sasquatch ran by me. I'm getting the chills just, getting emotional when I hear it, because it's like a real thing. These people are like real salt of the earth people. They make their living growing vegetables and baking pies and cookies for farmers markets. And this creature is eating his profits. And so, and here's the handprint. The handprint.
Look at that overlap. I mean, that's crazy. The overlap of hand over. Yeah.
It's 7 inches, 7.5 inches from the base of his palm to the tip of his finger. It's four more inches. So that Sasquatch juvenile hand is 11. Where'd it go? Anyway, 11 inches long from the base of the palm. That face you see there, that greenhouses, he's got 3 of them in a row. They're made out of the heavy plastic, but the soft roll-up plastic, and they stretch them over. They have butane heaters keeping everything, because it's cold now in the winter, so they keep the plants warm. And so that Sasquatch, after being busted in his greenhouse on a couple of occasions,
wow,
he's looking out to see if the owner's coming. So it's pushing its face with all that condensation up. It's like a shower curtain. It's putting its face there. That is a perfect face print of a Sasquatch.
Yeah, it's
perfect. Nothing other than what it is. If you knew these people, they're as good and salt of the earth as anybody else I've described. They just They don't have it in them. It's
They don't. They don't have anything to gain from this. I mean, they didn't even give you their real name. So how? Why would they want to lie about it?
I've been to their property, but I'm not divulging their names. I put
Right.
fake names or just nothing, but I've been to this property and I'm going back again. But when this thing ran out, the last time it caught it, he didn't catch it in there, but it ran out. It left a wreath, a bouquet, excuse me, a bouquet of collard greens on the grave of the cat that's
wow.
outside of this greenhouse that died when I was there, and they buried it when I was there. I said, well, don't put any flowers because they will pull the flowers up because they do not mark their graves for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And it did that to another habituation witness I have. Pull the flowers up they planted because they don't want anybody digging up. That was the family dog with this other habituation family. I got this stuff just going on, and it's falling in my lap because these people are so glad to have someone to talk to. They just go, oh my God, let me just tell you.
Did these people did they have like when they buried their pet, did they mention hearing noises in the woods at night, like of moaning or wailing of them mourning the family pet? Because I've heard that before.
No, but it could be. They have like 100 in this family where not this one here, where the pictures we were just showing, but the other family where they buried their dog. The Sasquatch saved that dog from a pack of wild dogs by screaming a long growl that lasted. They felt it in their chest, and those dogs left, and that dog was left alone forever. They never saw that pack of dogs again. About a year later, the grandma's dog died, and they buried it. So, but they did not recall or tell me they heard any the moan howl, the grieving sound that a lot of people report.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
But see, even the paranormal stuff, even the habituation stuff, I've got people that reported missing time with a Sasquatch, 6 hours of missing time after seeing a Sasquatch.
Really? 6 hours of missing time?
Yeah. Yeah, it's in this second book. I'm going to have to send you that second one. It's when you read some of this, and this guy called me up. He's like a very wealthy entrepreneur. He's got a internet company. They do, he's a computer whiz. He's
right.
It writes programs and stuff. So he's got this very successful business up there. And he just had a Sasquatch encounter. I'm paraphrasing it, to keep our time short, but he was a Sasquatch was walking at him in his 110-pound attack trained German Shepherd, who just stood there looking and did nothing. I think the dog was turned off, is what
probably peed itself too.
Yeah, well,
I've heard that a lot. Dogs will pee themselves when they encounter these things if they're not in attack mode.
But he had he was remodeling his log cabin. He had just had a baby. His wife was pregnant again. She was staying with parents close by. So he and the dog were staying in this travel trailer on the property while they were gutting their cabin and redoing it. So the Sasquatch, when they're putting all the tools away one night about 10:30, the Sasquatch is just walking at them, just straight at them from the cabin they were remodeling. So he just turns and runs, him and the dog. The dog does nothing. He even gives him his trained response, in German. That's his keyword, attack, kill. The dog ran away. He's like, oh, screw this. I ain't gonna hang around here.
So the attack word, the attack, not the safe word, but the attack word for meaning sick kill didn't do anything, and the dog ran away instead.
It ran into the cabin with him. So when he locked himself in, he could see the Sasquatch walking around the cabin. It wasn't menacing. It wasn't like trying to get in. It was just walking around. It was just very curious. And he could see him walking. He goes, screw it. I didn't get my gun. So he found a butcher knife in the kitchen. This is a 32-foot travel trailer. So him and the dog run into the bathroom and close the door. So you know how big a bathroom is. Not that big.
That's tiny.
So he's sitting there with a butcher knife like this at the door, just waiting. And the dog is leaning up against his shoulder like this, and they're squatted on the ground. Next thing he knows, 5:30 in the morning, he's waking up like this, like it just happened. refreshed. He wasn't tight from holding the knife like this for 6 hours. It was like he was refreshed, like it just happened. But it was 6 hours went by. The only reason he woke up is because the workers who were working on the cabin were showing up the next morning for work.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty.
He didn't want to know what
6
happened.
hours. Yeah.
He says, I said, I've been hypnotically regressed.
I was going to say, yeah, hypnotized regression
He didn't
therapy.
want to know.
He don't want to know.
I like my life boring. I do not want to know, and this was his words, I do not want to know that I was Travis Walton and I had some ungodly stuff done to me when I was out. I don't want to know that.
That's true.
I'm happy with my ignorance. I said, well, I've been regressed, and if it ever gets on your mind and you just can't get it off, get a hypnotist. Don't tell them too much, and find out what happened that night. I've done it, and I found out some stuff that I wasn't prepared to hear.
No.
But oh well.
That's pretty interesting. I like that. Well, I think the last one we'll just do a brief recount on your 2019 Chicago, Illinois encounter with this report you took with the camera, with the family.
Which one is that?
The Dogman experience.
Oh, the Dogman. Okay, yeah. I went to Illinois to scout for the Bigfoot expedition, and first thing I do when I go to little towns, I always go to the mom and pop restaurant, the breakfast joints. That's where you're going to meet all the old timers, everybody. That's the best place to find out what's going on, what to do, and what not to do.
Right.
So I went in there and sat down, said, "Hey guys, looking for a good place to do some camping and hunting and fishing." I didn't tell them what I was doing there. He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, this place you don't want to go, and that's down there at the Trail of Tears. You do not want to go there after dark. There's so much weird, ungodly stuff going on. Nobody goes down there. Nobody will go anywhere near that place here in town. Even the baddest hunters in town, the most macho hunters and women hunters.
All the alpha males won't touch that area, right?
They won't go anywhere near it." I said, "Well, that's where I'm going." So while I was on my way there, I got a call from one of the guys that talked to me. He said, "Hey, there's a guy that lives out near where you're going to scout for this expedition who thinks he's having some Sasquatch issues." And so he gave me the name, the number. I made contact with a local there, and we went out there together so I didn't get shot at. And this guy told me. So I don't remember. This was, God, it may have been 10 years ago. His daughter, I'll backtrack. They had a hickory tree and a locust tree out in the back. They're really long, nasty thorns, and but it was getting attacked and ripped on, and branches broken off, and trunks, just broken. And something was really mad at this tree, but they couldn't figure out what it was. And so he got a glimpse of something one night, and he thought, "I think I saw a Bigfoot." And his daughter said, "Well, I don't know, Dad. I see things outside my window at night, but I can't. By the time I'm looking, it's gone." So she got up one night when she heard something rustling around there. She went out to get a picture. She was just going to get a picture. Mm-hmm. So she raises her camera. She sees something, and it's kind of like a foggy thing, but it's starting to materialize. And she takes a picture. When she pulls up her camera, it's got a strap, and whatever was materializing, it hit that strap and pulled her camera down. So that photo, let me see, where is that?
I think I had it pulled up. So pretty much she saw something outside because we started buffering. If you could just recap that one more time, because we lost like 30 seconds.
She saw something outside. She went outside to take a picture, and she gets a picture. You can pull that photo up. It's not the greatest photo, but anyway, she gets a picture, and it looks like a dog man that is coming into shape. It's an obviously that's
look at that snout.
It's a good picture of the upper torso. You can see the shoulder and the arm, one arm hanging down. It looks like bare skin, but that is just the weirdest face.
Yeah.
Now, they were deeply religious, so they said, we don't know what this is. That's evil. I know it's evil. I don't know what it is. They took the camera and they threw it in a drawer and they left it. She moved out within 6 months. I'm not coming staying here
She was
anymore.
out of there. She said,
She
"Nope."
was out. She was 18. She was going. She was going to go to college and stay there. But she said, "I'm not staying here. That is evil." They're all deeply religious. They're very affected by it. The wife would not even talk to me. She was just like watching, like I was the unclean, you know. And so what they that camera sat in a drawer for 4 years. They did nothing with it. Probably at some point in time they actually forgot about it. Then when I came out there, they had taken it to like Walmart and just handed them the camera. There's pictures in here, just develop them.
Right.
There was only one picture that was like what do they call that? It's a burst.
Right.
It went off about 5 times, but
Five
all I
shot
got
round.
was a picture of a picture because they didn't even keep the camera or the SD card. They threw it away. It was evil. But he kept the picture. So what I took, the picture I got was a picture that I took of the picture laying down on my car seat in my Jeep because that's all they had. You know, there's no SD card. There's no way for me to, you know, try to see if there's anything. But you know, that was just bizarre. You know, but that's the kind of stuff that just throws itself in my lap. But what do you do with that story? You know, he had just retired to the country. He was a city slicker, retired to the country. He'd married a country. His wife was country through and through, and they've been married forever, had a kid, you know, and they just wanted to get back out to the country. And he was like an executive with an insurance company. So he was not like, you know, a hayseed or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to out there, they're so deeply, everything revolves around their religion. So the picture's not that great, but it's the story. These people are, again, more people that don't want anything. They're not faking anything. They're not making it up. They're so glad to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
What it is, I don't know what it is. We may never know, but that's the story behind that photo. But it's awesome. And actually, if you look at that photo, it's not bad. I mean, it's
not bad. I mean, it's not the
vague.
clearest in the world that I mean, I've seen some decent ones, but I mean, from the base on the, I mean, I'll show it one more time and see what else thinks, but you could definitely see a face, if it's a side view of a face and the shoulder. They're both, you know, the top one is, I guess he's looking right, and the bottom one he's looking left.
It's the same photo. I just flipped them.
Yeah.
To get
I mean,
just to see if I saw something on
you
one
can
side.
see it almost reminds me of like the original Wolfman, the Lon Strickler, like the elongated snap like face jawline, but not like recessed like a Doberman, a Great Dane, or you know, Anubis. You know what I mean?
They're like a Anubis, and they are very down home folks. Bless their hearts. They do not have the technology to fake this. They didn't even really want to talk to anybody, but just start bugging them, and your word got out, you know, that there was a Bigfoot guy in town, and so this guy decided to talk to me.
Yeah, even Shane from West Coast Dogman said that's the clearest photo he's seen other than Paul's. Paul Chafin's a friend of ours. He does the Kentucky Dogman Project.
Mm-hmm.
He actually did a lot of research with the great Kirk Stokes. He got his, you know, out with them, and he kind of did some training under Kirk Stokes, and he does his own stuff now, and it goes out into like the Daniel Boone Forest, and he gets all kinds of crazy stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the Garden of the Gods out there in Illinois is got all kinds of activity, you know. And how are we doing on time? We getting close?
We're about 2 minutes left.
Yeah. Well, we got other things to talk about, I guess. I mean, but the Garden of the Gods has got some great stuff. We ran into some Asian gentlemen that came running, screaming out of the woods at the crack of dawn because they just got chased out of the woods by a Sasquatch. That's what they told us in their broken English.
Damn.
And what they were doing in there, they were stealing ginseng.
Wow.
So they risked prison coming out of a federal forest for stealing ginseng to get caught because this Sasquatch was chasing them out of their ginseng stash. It was hilarious. You go, oh, let me go. That's it. Somebody speak English here because I don't understand anything you're saying. They were just, it was hilarious. And they said, oh, no tell, no tell, don't tell. But oh, giant. I think one of them was trying to say Godzilla, but he couldn't say it. He was just trying to
Oh
big,
God, I can only
big
imagine.
thing.
Yeah.
And he was, they were both like mortified. They said, police, you're not police. I said, no, I'm not police. Just what you see. Oh, monster. Yeah, they hauled ass and left. And
Yeah.
uh,
That's pretty funny that the
yeah.
broken English, and
Well,
that.
that guy you were just telling me about, I'll send him a picture. Just tell him to identify himself and PM me. I'll send him a picture of that dogman picture. It's not much to look at, but if I broke it down. I just like it matches her story. I just don't know like what because I've never seen. I've taken 3 dogman reports. That's one, and 2 others I took while I was taking my Bigfoot reports. Other than that, I don't run into them that much.
Wow.
You
That's
know.
pretty amazing. Oh, I just want to make a quick announcement. I just reached 800 subscribers tonight. I just want to thank everybody who subscribes, likes, and everything my channel. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but to me, I mean, from when I started from nothing to 800, that means a lot to me. I appreciate everybody that subscribed and likes this channel. I'm gonna actually try to. Once I was telling Carter earlier, when the weather gets a little better, and try to get out in the field and do some research with my own cameras and get some of my own footage and start putting it on the channel, uploading it, because I have some good cameras and I have lots of woods near me. So why not, right? And I have an active area. So why not get some footage and put it up there and put it out for everyone to see?
Mm-hmm. Just got to have a thick skin because all the haters and trolls, if you got good stuff, they're just gonna roast you.
Well, I post anyway. If they don't like it, just keep on moving. But I mean, a lot of people, they see the stuff. I have the arches, I have the X's, I have the structures, the bends, the breaks, the glyphs, the asterisks. I mean, I have it all. I have all that stuff on my property. I've brought a few people out that are veteran researchers, and they pretty much confirmed it. I had a Robin Haynes McCrae. She does mind speaking and remote viewing. She pretty much she described my property from to a T, and she's never been to my house, or I never told her where I live. So she confirmed my the clan on my property.
Isn't that cool stuff? In my first book, I've got a bunch of structures and stuff. I've got events with him counting,
Mm-hmm.
like counting with knocks, how many people are in our group.
Really?
2 people leave the group. Those two more knocks will show that those 2 people left when they join the group. 2 knocks to show but they count. And in the structures, everybody goes, well, those are man-made. They're natural. I say, well, these intricate weaves. You take 5 pool cues, throw them up in the ground in the air. How many times do you have to do that before they come back down in an intricate woven pattern?
Exactly. Yeah, you can't do that. You
You'll
can't.
die before that ever happens.
Yeah.
Because yes, they can fall naturally into some bizarre looking things, but if you start looking at the species of the tree
Yep.
that's in the structure and look around to see
They're different.
where
Yep, they're always different.
From, they're different. Are they cut? Did they snap? Did they break? There's a birch tree in here. The closest birch tree is like 20 feet away. It didn't fall and bounce. And, you have to look at things really carefully, because the stick structure just looks like a stick structure. But you got to identify the species. Was it cut? Were they broken? How close to that structure are the same species of tree where that might have come from? Most of the time, you can't disprove it.
No,
you can't. It is what it is.
It's mysterious. It's very mysterious, and like I said, if you have to kind of have an open mind and realize that these things are interdimensional. I call them hyperdimensional beings. There's different, that. I mean, you have the quantum theory, physics. You just got to have that open mind and that inner knowledge to accept it. That it's not just flesh and blood.
Oh, I could go on and on about the cloaking and all that stuff. It's love to come back sometime if you're
I was just gonna say I'd love to have you back on in the future. Maybe after the spring, early summer, and we can redo this, talk about more stuff, and go into your other books and just pick your brain on things.
Yeah, and this is what's cool is that these are everyday people. Somebody you walk by at the grocery store or at Walmart or at the at the convenience store, they may have just had an experience, and you'll never know it because they're going to keep it to themselves because everybody laughs and makes fun of them. People are having these, so I'm so lucky that I get to write the books and people are coming out. I've got updates already. I could probably start another one, which I don't really want to do, but I mean, these people are like, they need to have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
If it's not me, it can be you or anybody, but who's not going to violate them and embarrass them and ruin the reputation. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, and I got a lot of cops and pilots, politicians. They make great witnesses. Well, politicians don't, they lie too much. The cops and the pilots, they make because they're trained observers.
Yeah, they are trained to observe. Like if you've heard Martin Grove's story, he has a dogman encounter from the line between the lakes back in '93, I think, and because he was a police officer at the time, he can give a lot of details of his encounter to and it makes it very, very. You can almost picture it. He puts it into the story in your head, which is great.
Isn't that cool?
What's that?
Isn't that cool? That's just so cool.
Yeah. Well, I want to say goodnight to everybody, and thank you, Carter, for coming on. I appreciate you giving me an hour of your time. You didn't have to do that, and you did anyway. So I'm very humble that you chose to come onto my channel. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm assuming this West Coast Dogman guy has a Facebook thing or something, or
yeah, Shane Michael Crisp.
Oh, I might be doing a show with him.
You probably are. He's been doing a lot of good interviews. If he doesn't, he could just reach out to you through Messenger.
Okay, tell him to do that. But I'll send him a picture of that dog. It's not much of a picture, but the story is pretty cool too.
All right, Shane, you heard it. Reach out to Carter and everybody. You have a good night, Carter. Good night. Thanks for coming on, sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Tom. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.